What's up, y'all? My name is Matthew Smith. I teach guitar, and in this video I want to go over some really primary, super crucial, important, must-know information. By the way, the information I'm going to go over in this video I have drawn out on a page that I use in my private guitar lessons with my online students, and if you would like for me to email you a copy of this, just put your email address in the comments. If you don't want to do that, you can email me your email address. I'll go ahead and put mine in the description. And yeah, I'll send you a email of the scan. There are 4 bar chords that are the most common, most popular bar chords. And they are this E shape. By the way, I named the bar chords after what shape they're created from. So even though the name of this chord isn't E, I call it the E shape bar chord because it's based on the E shape. And anyway, I have another video that explains how the bar chords are created and how you should go about getting your hand used to them and how you can start learning them and understanding how they're named. And that's a pretty extensive video. I'm not going to go over all that here. I'm just going to assume you've either played some or all of these chords already in songs. So you have the major E shape, you have the minor E minor shape, and those 2 chords root off of the 6th string. The scales that go with those chord shapes also root on that same string at that same note. And then you have 2 more bar chords that are both based off of the different A and A minor open chord shapes. You have this one, this major bar chord, whose root note is on the 5th string. By the way, it's a bad habit to bar all the strings when you're doing these chords, because eventually you're going to do musical techniques that focus on the bass note. And also when you're playing and you're in the heat of the moment, you don't want to look down and see your barring finger unnecessarily barring the wrong bass note. I've watched it literally mess people up on the fly, and sometimes you even get a sound you're not looking for in the bass. So unless you're trying to add that note in, I would only bar to the 5th string on these 2 chords and let the tip of your barring finger mute the 6th string, so if you accidentally hit it, it doesn't make any noise. That's the major, and then the minor is this A minor shaped bar chord, which very famously comes up a lot in songs as B minor. Anyway, on this sheet, I've shown those 4 chords in this column, and then right next to them, I've drawn out the corresponding major or minor pentatonic scale pattern that fits over those chords. Why pentatonic scales? Well, pentatonic scales are very popular to learn on the guitar because they are essentially simplified scales, and as a result, their finger patterns are easier than the complete full scales they're based on. Also, if you learn the pentatonic scales first, it's not so hard to then later go in and add in the notes they're missing. Also, the pentatonic scales are at the heart of the sound of all of our American popular music that all of us have grown up listening to. So rock, blues, country, all of that stuff is heavily based on the sound of those pentatonic scales. So a lot of reason to learn pentatonic scales first on the guitar. All right, so the first bar chord is this minor shape, and I'm playing it on the 5th fret, so the name of it happens to be A minor. You don't have to know the name of the chord, but I really encourage people to track and understand and know the name of the chord they're playing. And it's determined by the name of the root note. Once you can play that chord, you want to be able to play the scale that goes with it. And that scale, that minor pentatonic scale, goes 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4, and then backwards it would be 4 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1. The best way to practice the scale, or any scale, is to play it up the fretboard. This is the only way to practice scales, and actually this is only going to teach you to play the scales forwards and backwards, but if you got to get started somewhere, this is the best place to start. And the up the fretboard method of practicing involves you taking a scale pattern and starting on fret 1, play it forwards, and then move up 1 fret position before going backwards. And then move up a fret position again before going back the other way. And then go up a fret position again. And so every time you play the scale, you go up a fret afterwards, and you just systematically work your way up the fretboard. And you probably should do this as high as you can go. On acoustic guitar, you should definitely go up to 12th fret before you stop. And on the electric guitar, I mean, go as high as you can go. These guitars are designed to be played as high as you could possibly reach to the highest frets. Anyway, then the next one I have drawn on here, and the next one I recommend learning, is the minor pentatonic scale that starts on the 5th string, and it fits over this chord. The reason why I would do this one next is because it's very similar to the first scale you learned. So that first scale goes 1-4, 1-3, 1-3. Well, this minor pentatonic that starts on the 5th string also goes 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, but then it goes 2-4, 1-4. So that whole pattern is 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 2-4, 1-4. Then you go backwards, 4-1-4, 3-1, 3-1, 4-1. And again, that scale pattern goes with that chord. Guys, in this video, I'm not going to mention adding the blues notes in and the controversial second blues note. But I did draw those notes on the sheet. And I'll probably make another video on blues notes, adding blues notes to pentatonic scales. But I wouldn't worry about adding those in when you first learn them anyway. And sometimes when you're soloing, you don't want to add those notes in, depending on the kind of sound you're trying to get. Cool. Once you've memorized those 2 scale patterns and the 2 chord shapes they fit over, then I would go about learning the 2 major pentatonic scale patterns. So you have this major chord. I call it the E-shaped bar chord because it's made by moving up the open E major chord. And these major pentatonic scales are a little bit more difficult, not a lot, but a little bit more difficult because, for one, they don't have that repetition of starting each string with the first finger just about every time. Also, they use the pinky a lot more in the patterns, so you have to have better hand positioning. And the patterns themselves are a little less repetitious and a little more irregular and just a little bit harder to remember maybe, but at the end of the day, they're all just about the same thing. So this major pentatonic scale that goes over this major chord starts with the 2nd finger on the root, not the 1st. So that's important. You put 2 on the root, and the pattern goes 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4. The bass line to My Girl is super famous, and all that bass player did was literally just play the major pentatonic scale, notes in order. That's a great example of how there are just tons of famous scales and riffs in guitar that literally just follow scales. Anyway, so I would memorize that scale. 2, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, and then it goes 1, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4, backwards, 4, 2, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 2. A lot of players are going to opt to play some of these sequences that go 2, 4, 2, 4 instead with 1, 3, 1, 3, and you can totally do that. And a lot of players, when they're improvising with these scales, they'll change the finger assignments to suit where they're at and where they've slid to or the lick they're playing. My philosophy on it is this: when you're practicing the scales, play them by the book. So you should use all 4 fingers. You should try to avoid shifting, and you should have the best hand position you can possibly muster with nice curved stature, not flat ploppy placement of the pinky. If you can play that way when you're practicing, then when you're soloing, it's easy to do this thumb over grip and use your stronger fingers to do all the kinds of playing that you see people do. That doesn't take as much skill as playing with the pinky and in this kind of out hand position. So practice by the book, practice with the correct fingering, but then when you're playing, you can do whatever you want. It's worked for me. And it seems to be the way a lot of people kind of deal with the duality of how to play these scales, different styles that you would use. Okay, anyway, then the last one is this major chord, which again is the A shape moved up. And the scale pattern that goes with this is very similar to the last one you just played, just like the two minors have a similar sequence in the beginning. This one also goes 2 4 1 4 1 4, and then it goes 2 4 2 4, just like the other one ended with 2 4 2 4. So there's a few different things you can key on to help you remember the similarities and therefore the individual patterns. 2 4 1 4 1 4 2 4 2 4 4 2 4 2 4 1 4 1 4 2. It would probably, if you have never played these scales, or if you've played one of them or some of them, it would be a little bit of practicing involved. I would suggest just picking one scale per practice session and to work it up the fretboard. And depending on where you're at with it, that should be enough to get you to where you have the scales memorized. Once you have those scales memorized and you know which chord shape goes with them, then this is the kind of fun kind of practicing or jamming experiment you can do with them. Let's take the very first chord we did, the minor chord, playing off, just for the heck of it, we'll do A again on the 5th fret. So you can start strumming the chord using any strumming pattern you know or are comfortable with. You can just sit there and go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and just do a steady, simple 8th note chugging kind of pattern like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it really doesn't matter. You could also play something like, whatever you play is good. Just establish a steady rhythm, and then when you're ready, jump into the scale and see if you can play the scale in a matching rhythm, and then jump back to the chord when your rhythmic intuition tells you you should. You can jump in the middle and play up and down. You can start at the top and go in reverse, or you can just always start at the root if that's where you're comfortable starting. Anything you play is worth it and is fun as long as you stay in the scale. Then once you can do that, try jumping to another chord, like maybe this D minor chord. And you play the scale that corresponds to it. So you're actually switching scales as you switch chords. And then go back to the first chord, A minor, and switch back to that scale. Then you can add major chords like G major. You play the major scale that goes with it, C major. So you're actually switching the scale pattern to match the chords you're playing. And really, this is how most guitarists, I believe, think about soloing in a lot of situations. Maybe not every situation, but most guitarists will think of the chord shape that they're playing over at that moment, and then they know the different patterns that they can play. And the pentatonic major will fit over the major chord almost every time, and same thing, the minor pentatonic should fit over the minor chord, like I said, in just about every situation. It's a pretty simple way to look at how to solo, but it's pretty effective, and it definitely is a great place to start, and it'll definitely more than get you by and just on a lot of kinds of music. I don't know, there was some other thing. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and enjoy.